Welcome to Alt News Talk Radio. Today's video is about Black Lives Matter to boycott white capitalism for Black Christmas. This is brought to you by Fox News, the Ingram Angle. Here we go. Let's roll the clip.
All right, ready for some humor? Black Lives Matters. That's the humor. No, sorry. Black Lives Matter thinks it can bring down white capitalism by creating a Black Christmas. And their idea is for Black consumers to boycott any white-owned stores. So tell me, how is that not racist? And don't people like Hillary Clinton and former President Obama ultimately share some blame for helping legitimize such a radical organization? Just listen.
Black Lives Matter simply refers to the notion that there's a specific vulnerability for African Americans that needs to be addressed. When people say Black Lives Matter, that doesn't mean blue lives don't matter.
And we do have to stand up and say loudly and clearly, Black Lives Matter.
All right, joining us now for reaction is attorney Anthony Tall. All right, Anthony, you gotta educate me on this one. I do not understand this at all. How do you determine, first of all, just as a factual matter, if a business, let's say, is owned by like an Indian guy in a partnership with a white woman, and then maybe has a black co-owner as well, maybe three people own a business together, does that business get boycotted because there's an element other than a black element in the ownership structure? How do you determine that?
Well, I don't know if that's how you focus on the problem. I think you pretty much just focus on what they're saying is that there's black businesses in the black community that need to be supported and need to be encouraged. You know, this is a day of Oprah. This is the day of Blackish. You know, black economic power means something. So what Black Lives Matter is saying is let's just invest in black businesses for this Christmas. Let's make sure we spend our dollar the way that a lot of other ethnic groups have spent their dollars for years. So I don't know if the focus is so much on whether or not there's a diversity or multicultural within the business or excluding whites. I think the focus is on let's make sure that our economic dollar is spent in our community and we build entrepreneurship, which is a Republican idea. I'm surprised you don't like that, Laura.
Yeah, well, I actually think it's people want to, Catholics go to Catholic businesses, you know, I don't have any problem with that. My problem is when it seems to be based in a very, it's kind of a negative thing. Christmas is about, you know, Christ and the birth of Christ, and of course retail is important, but I think businesses need consumers, they need customers. So why penalize a business that just happens to be owned in whole or part by a white person? Maybe that white person or Indian person or Asian person maybe pulled himself or herself up by the bootstraps, came from nothing, and started a business in a minority community. Don't we want to encourage white and Asian and all sorts of people to come into black communities to bring more dollars and investment? That way black people can come work there and maybe become a manager and ultimately take the shop over. Isn't that something good?
Well, yeah, that's good, but I think because black people in this country have had such an economic struggle. Remember, this is nothing new. Going all the way back to Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Rosewood, where blacks would try to start their own businesses, which could expand and could express the diversity that you're talking about, and a lot of those communities were destroyed. So with that being the case, we're still here in 2017, where now we realize the black dollar has economic power, as it always has.
Dollar? And when you say a black, hold on, I say green dollars. What do you mean black dollars? I mean,
I definitely understand. I definitely understand green dollars. That's what I said.
What I'm trying to say is a dollar spent at any store, retail outlet. I mean, that dollar goes into the business in the community. So I understand spend money in the community. I think that's great because it encourages more business, encourages more jobs and so forth. That's great. But it just seems antithetical to me to helping a community where people are coming in from all races and backgrounds, whether it's St. Louis or Detroit. Isn't it about welcoming people of all colors and backgrounds into different underprivileged, underserved areas? And bringing all people together? Isn't that what Christmas is all about? Not like, you're black, I'm white, you're Asian, let's all go to our own stores and go to our own separate places. To me, that's just That's just wild after
Yeah,
everything
but
the country's
I don't
been
think
through.
that's the point. I know. I don't think that's the point, though. I think the point is that what they're saying, and let me go back to the black dollar thing. What I'm saying is that black people who have money, which is obviously green, that their dollars go into black businesses. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying that if you live in a certain community, let's support the businesses in the black
Well, that's
community.
different, but you're
as ethnic
making it about race, and I think this is the stuff that's
I'm not
driving so
making
many
it about
people
race.
crazy.
I haven't made
Black Lives
Yeah.
Matter is
I haven't
making
made
it
anything
about
about
race.
race.
And when you say black people should shop only at black-owned stores, that is a racial statement at a time where our country is supposed to be uniting and coming together, especially at the holiday season. And if it was going to be really focused on only black businesses, why just focus during Christmas? Make it all year long, forever. Only go to black-owned stores, only go to black-owned businesses. Do it a whole year long.
I think
Let's
it should
really
be that
do
way.
it right.
I think it should be that way. I think it should be that way, but I
Oh,
think
we've
you're
made
once again, I
progress.
think you're missing the point.
It
Yeah,
should
we
be
have.
that
I think you're
way.
missing
So
the
no
point. The
white-owned
point is
stores
that
ever.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there should be a diversity of dollars
Yeah.
spent. But because of those people who are at a low economic level to build their dollar value up in other communities,
Yeah.
they need to learn how to invest in their own
They
business.
need to
I
learn,
know you agree
everyone
with
needs
that, Laura.
everyone needs to learn to have a work ethic, save for a rainy day, and be open to people of different backgrounds and I just think the racial line is wild. I think it's like the opposite meaning of Christmas, at least to me, but that's my view.
I think that's how you see it. Yeah, I think you
that
see it
is.
wrong. but
I
that's
appreciate
fine.
it. Thanks so much.
So we're going to just go back a little bit and dissect this program just a bit.
Black Lives Matters. Black Lives Matters thinks it can bring down white capitalism by creating a black Christmas. And their idea is for black consumers to boycott any white-owned stores. So tell me, how is that not racist? And don't people like Hillary Clinton and former President Obama ultimately share some blame for helping legitimize such a radical organization?
Boo!
Boo. Simply refers to the notion that there's a specific vulnerability for African Americans that needs to be addressed.
When people say Black Lives Matter, that doesn't mean blue lives don't matter.
And we do have to stand up and say loudly and clearly, Black Lives Matter.
All right, join Paul. All right, Anthony, you gotta educate me on this one. I do not understand this at all. How do you determine, first of all, just as a factual matter, if a business, let's say, is owned by like a...
Well, first of all, let me apologize of my recording. But I want to just go to what she spoke about. First of all, I didn't appreciate that she had to go to her usual suspected white supremacist talking point, blaming Barack Obama and then Hillary Clinton for this situation. They have nothing to do with it. Different individuals within the organization of Black Lives Matter happen to be calling for this boycott. Let me remind you that Black Lives Matter is an organization that's comprised of a majority of white Americans. So before you blame black people and start saying things are racist, just remember that very important point. She's trying to spin the narrative that Black Lives Matter is being racist for wanting to boycott white businesses over black businesses, when in fact white people automatically do that right in 2017. So do Asians, so do Jews, so does every other ethnic group in America, but it's only a problem when black people discuss economic independence. It's only when black people discuss economic strength. It's only when black people discuss economic freedom. That's when white people like this lady start having issues. But I digress. I caught how she tried to make President Obama and Hillary Clinton look bad just for speaking positively about Black Lives Matter. In other words, she, like other suspected white supremacists, tried to demonize Black Lives Matter. That is racist. And yet they keep pointing their fingers away from themselves and calling other people racist. They really should look in a mirror. This attorney here by the name of Anthony Hall, who she is interviewing, he gives some very good answers. You saw the video, I showed it earlier in this commentary. Nonetheless, she goes into trying to trick him into talking about how can Black Lives Matter differentiate from a company that is owned by a white person and a Asian person and say a black person. In other words, this company is owned by 3 different people of 3 different ethnic groups. In other words, she is deflecting and throwing out a fantasy situation, trying to compare apples to oranges when it doesn't apply. What she's trying to do is trip him up. And that is a trick. It's a deceptive trick by suspected white supremacists. You know, I'm not going to continue this broadcast here. I'm going to end this off here. Let's just put it this way. Black Lives Matter is a group comprised of mostly white people. Just remember that when you keep calling it racist. This is Dice Jones, your host at Alt News Talk Radio.